Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. Hey, man, how many of y'all remember the first game of the season where the Rockets were playing against the Warriors? And while Chris Paul was out there, the Rockets were looking pretty bad. Then Chris Paul came out the game, and they came back and won it with James Harden and was like, oh, man, we'll see how this Chris Paul-James Harden thing works out. And then Chris Paul comes back because it turned out that he was injured, and the Rockets have not lost a game with Chris Paul. They have an 11-game winning streak as of right now. They are 12-0 total in the games that Chris Paul has played. The Rockets are 22-4. I'm shocked by how little we talk about the fact that the Rockets are 22-4, right? I mean, because the Rockets are here at a place where we have just basically written the West, written it off as being the Warriors since the beginning of everything. Dude, not only are the Rockets balling, but the Rockets are balling and the Rockets are playing defense. They've got those two guys out there. They seem to be getting along enough. They got the best record in the West. Like, hey, guys, this is something to kind of sort of pay attention to, don't you think? I would think that this would be something to kind of sort of pay attention to, even though I'm looking at the Rockets roster. I'm a bit up and down on Mike D'Antoni, but let's be real with ourselves about some of these other guys who play for the Rockets and be like, yo, this collection of cats is 22-4. And not only is this collection of cats 22-4, this collection of cats is out here with the fifth best defensive rating in the NBA. So, yeah, you got Chris Paul. You got James Harden. You know who's clocking in behind them? We got James Harden and Eric Gordon as your top two scorers. Then Chris Paul, then Clint Capella, Ryan Anderson. Remember when they kept trying to trade Ryan Anderson and nobody would take him? Ryan Anderson scoring, hitting for about 12 points a game this year and 40% from three.
The face of the stretch four, Ryan Anderson.
Yes, the face of the stretch four and the quickest way to ruin a trade proposal. They go with Trevor Ariza. Shannon, did you know that Nene was still in the league?
And it threw me off with Nene last year because I think he lost a lot of weight, so he looked totally different.
Yes, he did.
He started getting some gray in that beard and lost weight like a totally different guy.
Isn't he, is he the 2002 draft?
2002 draft pick by the New York Knicks.
That's right. I was going to ask you if you
that's where you were
that.
going with that, weren't?
No, I wasn't so much going with that because they drafted him, and didn't they immediately trade him to Denver?
For Antonio McDyess, yes, they did.
Yeah, I like Antonio McDyess. He was a good player for Denver.
In Phoenix.
Was he a good player for the Knicks?
In Detroit.
Was he a good player for the Knicks?
In San Antonio.
So I guess no?
Everywhere else but the Knicks.
I actually hadn't thought about that with Antonio McDyess, where I thought that Antonio McDyess' career ended because he got to the Knicks and his knees went bad. But no. He put it all together to go play for other people. He's up there with the Knicks like, nah, my knees still hurt. You know my knees are bad, right? Yeah, y'all might want to try to get off of under my contract. My knees ain't never going to be good. And then, whoop. He turned out to be okay. The Rockets did something this year, though, with this roster where I have been critical of Daryl Morey very often because I think that Daryl Morey ignores the fact that there are human concerns to playing basketball. And I think that the algorithm and everything else that they're using to come up with how to put that team together, you had to do some math on having, it's not all going to come out for you out of the equation. I thought that going to get Ty Lawson, for example, was a bad idea for them, not realizing, your team doesn't have any grown-ups. You need to have a grown-up. This team went out and got themselves a couple of grown-ups in the offseason. One of those grown-ups is Chris Paul, who is just a super grown type. That's just how he does. And you know who the other grown-up is they got, right, Shannon? You know about the other grown-up? I believe he is also a member of the 2003 high school class, also from the state of North Carolina.
Are you referring to the 6'5" power forward that is P.J. Tucker?
I am referring to the dude you don't want no problems with, P.J. Tucker. You are absolutely correct. I got all these different ways to talk about these cats that you don't want no problems with, like we talk about all the 5'9" guys. But, Shannon, you hit a perfect one on P.J. Tucker. P.J. Tucker is a 6'5" power forward. Like, that's who LiAngelo Ball needs to be watching footage of, right? He needs to be out there watching some footage of P.J. Tucker, because if you're going to be the size that he's looking at, this is the guy that you're going to be. So the Rockets got a guy that you do not want any problems with. And they needed that guy. Him and Luka Mbamute? Like, they went and got themselves some guys who do other things and can hit enough threes, right? Like, I feel like that's the thing with PJ. PJ can hit you enough threes. PJ also, I wouldn't say, Shannon, will we call him a can't-go-back all-star because we've seen him back in Raleigh too much to say that he can't go back, but I feel like he can't come back to stay for very long? Listen to this list of countries that PJ Tucker done played in. Israel, Ukraine, Greece, Italy, and Germany.
Definitely, I wouldn't call him a can't go back, but he's definitely stay ready though.
He is ready. He's ready. I told you about that time that I went to his brother's barbershop. I was in Raleigh, and this is like 2007, and I don't really know Raleigh like that. And so I needed to find a black barber. I mean, I had hair then. So I needed to find black people's barbershop, but I didn't know the area, and the internet had not progressed in the way. Like, it really wasn't Yelping like that. You know what I mean? So I just pulled up a list of barbershops, and I was like, okay, where am I going to find this barbershop? How do I know it's the black barbershop? And then I came across Big Will's. And I was like, okay, I believe that's what I need. And then I rode to Big Will's. And I'd actually been saying for the longest time, like, I'd gone to Raleigh at different times, and you normally stumble across certain parts of town at some point in your travels that I hadn't in Raleigh. Shannon, I got there, and as I recall, it was a check cashing joint on one side. No, it was a check cashing joint and a laundromat with a barbershop in between.
Oh, then you were in the right place now.
I was in the right place. Big Will's took care of me right before I went to outside the lines. I wonder if anybody else had ever gone to Big Will's before they had planned to go holler at Bob Lee, who, Shannon, by the way, I was in Bristol yesterday, greeting me with a fist bump.
Speaking of which, how was your time up here in Bristol yesterday in the beautiful weather that is Bristol, Connecticut?
Oh, my God, it was cold. It was cold then and it's cold now, and I'm trying. All right, so some of you guys don't know this about me as a person, but I lived in Miami for the last 4 years, and y'all would get on the internet and be complaining or putting them pictures up of screen capture of your weather and talking about how cold it was, and I figured that we were just all playing a game where we discuss how the weather was wherever we were, so you guys would put up the screen caps of your cold weather, and I would then take a picture from the balcony of my beachfront condominium and put a picture up of that because I thought that we were just sharing what the weather was. And Shannon, people didn't seem to appreciate that very much. I don't really understand what it is. I thought, why can't I participate in the game, right?
So I haven't seen you doing that here lately there, Bo.
You haven't seen me doing that because ain't nothing to celebrate in this weather, and I don't feel like participating in the cold weather sharing game anymore, in large part because I know a lot of y'all are low-bottom haters, and if I get myself into a situation where I'm talking about how cold it is, you're going to be like, oh, you cold now. You wasn't cold last year. You cold now. And I would just like to say to all of you, I encourage every single one of you, if you were offended when I would post the pictures of my beachfront condo last year while the weather was cold where you are, go out to the balcony of your beachfront condo, take a picture, and then send it to me so I can feel the same pain that you felt in that moment. Right? Like, that's what it is. In the meantime, the cold ain't really been that bad, Shannon. I went out and got me some equipment, got me a couple of bubble coats. You know what I'm saying? I got some warm long johns of some sort that are on right now. And let me tell you something about long johns. I feel like we give the long johns a little too much credit. They help, but they don't solve the problem. They do not solve the problem. I never want to go back to Houston so bad in my life, and I can't go back all-star of a different type when it comes to hometown. But it snowed in Houston before it snowed in New York. And Shannon, it was like 46 degrees a couple days ago in Miami.
Oh, so they're getting it too then, so I don't feel as bad.
That's right. You have to tell the people about the picture you took yesterday because you did your Miami time.
Yeah, I did my stretch day in Miami. So then yesterday when I took the kids out, put them on the bus, it was a nice 13 degrees. So I figured I'd snap a pic of my kids and put it on the Instagram there. My son was none too pleased with that 13-degree weather. Let's just say he really enjoyed wearing shorts to school every day last year.
Yeah, I've known your son since he was 2 years old. I had never seen that look on his face ever before in life. I've never seen just outright sadness like the sadness was on his face right there. That's the thing about living in Miami, man. No matter how much you say you do or do not like it, don't nobody ever complain about the weather. Ever. And I'm not going to complain about the weather to you guys. Nope, because I went and got me a heavy-duty coat And then when I got me another heavy-duty coat, I got a hat, I got some gloves, and all of those things were getting assaulted yesterday. Like, they were putting up a valiant fight, a strong effort, right? Like, they were doing all those things.
Like, in theory, you had a great plan going into it.
I did. Look, I'm doing the best I can, bro. I'm doing the best I can. I told you, I went to go look for that coat on the internet. I got to one of them coat sites, and then you got, how do you sort? I was like, sort by most expensive, please. I am sparing no expense. Like, I ain't get the most expensive coat they had, but the last thing I was going to do was be cold outside talking about, damn, I wish I spent that extra $100. Anyway, the Rockets are really good at basketball. You should call me and talk about it because clearly this is a day where you need to put in your half. I looked at ESPN.com earlier today, and they had something about LeBron maybe going to the Lakers. That's how you know, people. We scraping the bowl. Put something in the bowl so we ain't got to scrape the bowl. You don't like the noise when I scrape the bowl. Put something in the bowl. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, why the folks in Indiana hating on Paul George so bad? You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Greg Doyle of the Indianapolis Star will join us next segment. Greg Doyle will join us at 4:30 Eastern. Find out why them folks is booing Paul George like that. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. And it's Top Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. We just talking about the Rockets. Haven't lost a game that Chris Paul has played in this year. Let's hit the phone, talk to Nick in Alaska. Nick, thanks for calling The Right Time.
I love the show. Cowboys fan, Rockets fan. Sup, Shannon. But I don't know why at the beginning of the year a lot of people were not thinking the Rockets thing with Chris Paul and James Harden would work because back in the day when he was at OKC, he was basically a two-guard and a point guard at the end of the games anyway, and he could always go back to being a two-guard. He's a great spot-up shooter, and he loves playing the two. And then with D'Antoni staggering them off and on the court, I mean, that was kind of almost simple too. And D'Antoni made Steve Nash a two-time MVP, so why couldn't he make this work?
Well, I think there's something to be said for that. I think part of it, one, is just that the Warriors have been so good that we didn't think anybody would be better than the Warriors. But there's also some interesting numbers here, like the on-court, off-court numbers with Chris Paul and James Harden, with them playing when they are and are not playing with each other, that I thought were very interesting. Like, let me find this one right here. I got to click a couple buttons on the internet. All right, there we go. So while Chris Paul and James Harden are on the floor together, per 100 possessions, they got a net rating of 9.5. This is where it's interesting. If it's only James Harden, they got a net rating of 22. If it's just Chris Paul, they have a net rating of 37. Right? So, like, they're good together. They're even better when it's only one of them on the floor at the same time. I don't have a great explanation for you as to why it is that way, but I do think what they got going is interesting. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Paul George played his first game back in Indiana last night, and, they were booing, and Paul George was missing 12 points on 3 of 14 shooting. Shannon, they said they booed him every time that he touched the ball. Every single time they booed Paul George. Why are they so mad at Paul George?
I'm not surprised by that. The thing I was surprised, I thought they would have at least applauded him a little bit more, but the booing, I'm not surprised.
But I feel like, well, really, what's the cause for being mad in this case? Like, I understood the thing with Kevin Durant where people felt like, they felt like Kevin Durant, like, abandoned them. Paul George said, I'll stick this thing out, but I'm just letting you know I'm out of here at the end of the contract. Isn't that how the story went? And then they made the decision, that was a wise one, to go ahead and to trade Paul George. And they got back Victor Oladipo in the trade, and that seems to be working out pretty well. Like, I think after the LeBron thing, it's become more in style than ever to boo people after they leave. It's almost like this is being deemed as the way that you are supposed to handle these things. Like, remember when people started burning jerseys after LeBron left Cleveland? I had never seen that happen before. Then it becomes almost a staple of what everybody is doing. Like, this becomes the template of how you're supposed to handle it when your guy winds up leaving. But with Paul George, I'm just kind of like, all right, I guess. And Paul George seems to be confused, too. He don't know why they're acting like that.
I don't know if they want me to be a circus act or be out there like a show. I played my hardest and I played hard every night. I thought I took, what the city was about, and that's being blue collar. That sure was how I approached the game. Played every side of the ball. They have now they have with Lance, the guy that they're looking for.
Lance? Shannon, did he just say that Lance Stevenson was the guy that Indiana was looking for? Did you ever think you lived that long?
I'm sure he didn't just mean Lance. I'm sure he had to give praise to Oladipo, but he did say Lance, as in Lance Stevenson.
But the thing that's interesting is that somehow Lance Stevenson is the fit there, right? He is the gritty, blue-collar, grit guy. Like, that's where his career has taken him, is now to a place where he is that guy, the guy that Indiana wanted, Lance Stevenson. Wow. Yeah. You got anything?
I don't know when this happened. So is Lance Stevenson moving towards beloved? Like, in Indiana? Like, is he at that level now?
Well, what's even wilder about it is he can't make it work anywhere but Indiana, and Indiana can't seem to make it work without him. Never saw that coming. Never, ever once saw that coming.
It didn't work in Charlotte, right? And then he went to, I think, was it New Orleans, I want to say?
Yes.
And here he is back with the Pacers, beloved.
Who knew? By the way, Knicks fans, they get the Oklahoma City Thunder homecoming tour rolls into New York City. They'll get to holler at Melo this weekend. How do you think your folks going to handle that, Shannon?
They're going to cheer Carmelo. They better cheer Carmelo. I don't think Knicks fans have any reason to boo Carmelo Anthony. I really don't. He stayed there. He re-signed there when you knew they were going to be bad and that you really couldn't trust what the front office was doing. So I would imagine that Knicks fans are going to cheer Carmelo. It's not his fault.
You know damn well they're going to boo him.
Well, then there'll be a bunch of busters then if they do.
There actually will be a bunch of busters because you're right. They finally got a star-caliber player who signed on and said, nah, I want to do this New York thing. I want to make it happen. You finally got one. Then once you got it, you were mad at him. That man even lied and said he was from here when he wasn't. Remember that? Remember that when he talking about I want to come back home to Brooklyn? The dude that's got West Baltimore tattooed on his arm. Did he ever get that tatted over, by the way? Like WB, what that, like West Bronx? Like what? Brooklyn. Maybe he changed it into that because that was the birthplace, right?
Yeah, that was the birthplace, but we all know where home is for Melo.
Baltimore. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. This is the phone. Talk to Chris in Indiana. Chris, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, thanks very much for taking my call. I just wanted to talk about Paul George a little bit. Personally, I would not have booed him. I mean, I figure if you don't want to be here, you want to go work somewhere else, this is a free country, go work wherever you want to work. I'm not going to be mad at you. But I think a lot of people, he was our only superstar. And he basically told the Indiana fans, I just don't want to be here. And they took that personally because he's it. I mean, since Reggie Miller and Jermaine O'Neal, he's the only star we've had.
No.
So
I guess I do believe that you are right, and thanks, my man, for calling. But let me check something right fast because I understand what everybody's talking about. I just want to put some things into perspective for you right fast. Shannon, I just took the computer here, and I went to weather.com. Let me see what they're talking about in Indianapolis right now. Because he said Paul George, he looked around, he said he didn't want to be there. Shannon, the weather in Indianapolis right now, 31 degrees. I wouldn't want to be there neither. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. All right, coming up next, I'm saying there's no reason to be mad at Paul George. Greg Doyle, kind of mad at Paul George. We'll ask him why on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check him out at the Indianapolis Star. His name is Greg Doyle. Now, Greg, I read your column on Paul George in the game last night. You seemed to feel a little torn.
I was so torn. I went there to hate him. I mean, in your head, in my head, I don't think to myself, I'm going to go here to hate Paul George. But, I look back and say, okay, I can see it. Went there to hate him, succeeded in hating him for about a half and was really enjoying how bad he was. And then at halftime, I realized he's the one guy that hadn't come out of the locker room yet, so I'm just kind of lurking by the locker room. There's nobody else around, the media anyway, but me. And and I see him come out, and just at that exact moment, a father and a son, another kid walk by with Paul George shirts on, and the kids are like screaming, PG, PG. He's having a terrible homecoming game, embarrassing on national TV, but he sees these two kids, walks over to them, gives us a fist pound, and then goes back to the court. And I'm thinking, man, you've been ripping him because he left your city. That's what a good guy does right there. So now I feel ashamed of myself. I'm writing my story, ripping him, and yet apologizing for ripping him in the interview room, and Paul George does a Paul George and shows zero self-awareness and all kinds of ego right as I'm writing my kicker. And so my kicker is pretty much the hell with you, Paul George.
Well, I can't figure out why you're so bad at believing the city, though. You just got there a couple years ago.
But I haven't left yet, have I? Look, Cincinnati's been burning down that town since I left. People get mad when folks like me and PG leave a town, you know, and that's a joke. It's not so much that he left, although believe me, no one likes that he left. And I realize that stars do leave towns. LeBron's left a couple of them. Durant left. So around the country, it might be easy to say, hey, this happens. Yeah, well, try it when it's your city, okay? Try it when it's your city and you've got a Paul George and then he's gone. But it's the way he left, too. Gutlessly, didn't tell the Pacers, didn't make it clear what he was doing when they had their best options available for trade. Finally let them know right before the draft, guys, I'm not coming back. Tied their hands. And then his agent tampered and told teams, and was found guilty of this, told teams, hey, we're going to the Lakers. In other words, don't trade for PG because he's going to the Lakers. So screw him and his agent.
We're talking to Greg Doyle, the Indianapolis Star, here on The Right Time. The only thing about that trade, I mean, doesn't it look pretty good?
Oh, it does. And I don't know if that's – I'm not good at this stuff. Like, I'm not good at sabermetrics. And this is one of those 21st century terms, but I think the term is confirmation bias. I think what's not fair is look at that trade and look at how well the Pacers did and say, nothing's wrong with the way Paul George left. Look how it turned out. It turned out because Kevin Pritchard made a brilliant, maybe lucky, although I'm not sure you get lucky when you're that smart, made a brilliant trade, and it's been better than anybody dreamed. Oladipo goes from averaging 15.5 to 24.5. Sabonis, who everybody knew was going to get better, I don't think we knew he was going to be averaging 11 and 9 this fast. So, yeah, great trade, turning out great for the Pacers. But that's in spite of the way Paul George left, not because of it.
We're talking to Greg Doyle, the Indianapolis Star, here on The Right Time. Now, one thing I seem to pick up in your column, you tell me if I'm wrong here, it seemed like things that he had always been that nobody had a problem with suddenly became a problem when he left. Is that fair?
It is fair. Now, in fairness to me, all these things that I pointed out, the way he pouts after – I mean, the thing about Paul that drives me nuts is that he's got this LeBron complex. He wants to be treated like LeBron. He wants all the fame. He wants all the All-Star votes. He wants all the calls from referees. He wants the respect from opponents. He thinks he's that good. And so there's never been a foul call that he thought was worth it. Every time he goes up and misses a shot, he falls apart like Mr. Potato Head thinking that surely I got fouled because you don't think I missed a shot on my own. He talks about himself like he's really something else. And around here, because he was our guy, and you know how fans are, they loved him. And when I pointed out the things that I'm telling you about, that I pointed out again last night, people around here hated me for it. But as soon as he left, they all see it now. You know how that is. I mean, like Lane Kiffin was loved at Tennessee until he left, then they hated him. It's just how it goes. But in my defense, I didn't like him from the moment I got here because I could see what he was.
Now, one thing I thought was fascinating after the game where he talked about, the Pacers fans, he didn't get why they felt that way, but then he said Lance is the guy that they want. Did you ever think you'd live long enough for Lance Stevenson, fan favorite in Indianapolis?
Well, Paul said something. Well, listen, I don't know. Maybe you don't realize this. And I know the Washington Post is working on a story about Lance and what a fan favorite he is here in Indianapolis, because it really doesn't kind of make sense. We're a very red state, and Lance Stevenson is a very, very blue state kind of basketball player. They love him here. They love, in part because he wants to be here, but they just love Lance. And Lance plays like he's on a sugar rush at all times. But it's fun, and it's kind of harmless, and he's spastic, but he's our spastic, and so anyway, people love Lance, and I get it now. I didn't get it from afar, live here, and I get it. However, Paul said some stupid stuff like, I don't know if they wanted me to be a circus act here or what, because the question was leading. The question was something about effort level and how he does make it look effortless, okay? He glides. I mean, he's a glider. And the question was something about, do you think the fact that you made it look so effortless, people question your effort level? And then he jumped on the question like that was it. Yeah, I don't know if they want me to be a circus act or what. They like Lance because Lance is real fiery. Listen, Paul, it's got nothing to do with effort level. No one ever complained about that. So just because someone asked him that question, don't start turning it around. The reason I don't like Paul, and the reason people that pay attention to Paul don't like Paul, is a lack of self-awareness. Here's a real quick story. Last year, the Pacers lost I believe it was their fourth and final game of a sweep against the Cavaliers. Paul had a last-second shot, okay, to keep the game alive. That was the night his Gatorade commercial came out. You know, the horrible one where he shoots a three-pointer, walks in slow motion to the bench and says, ball game, right when the ball goes through the net. Well, that night he had a shot like that and missed it. And he has always missed those in Indianapolis. Go look at the stats. He is the worst clutch shooter in the NBA. Like, he's 0 for 16 or something ridiculous like that. But he's the one that has a commercial that says ball game. Well, last night when we were asking Paul about playing here and coming back, and someone asked him about, you were denying Vic Oladipo the ball late, and that really did help the Oklahoma City win. I mean, Paul's really good. Even when he's not hitting shots, he is a great player. He was denying Oladipo the ball, and he said, Vic's their guy, right? He's their guy, right? Well, you deny him the ball. Simple. Ball game, and he smacked the table and walked off. Like, having no idea that when Paul George, when you say the word ball game, all of us are laughing at you in our head because you're the guy that can never hit that shot, so don't start playing that tough guy card here.
We're talking to Greg Doyle, the Indianapolis Star, here on The Right Time. Now, for the Pacers as a whole, how good do you think this team is?
Not terribly good. Now, I mean, is it light years better than any of us, and that includes me. I was dead wrong about the trade. Than any of us thought they were going to be? Yeah, absolutely. We all kind of thought this was a high lottery team. Not just a lottery team, but you're going to be in the first 5 or 6 picks because you lose a superstar, and all you get back are 2 guys who have never had an all-star game in their life. You're supposed to get your ass kicked, all year long. Well, they're playing much harder than ever. They like each other. They didn't like Paul. In hindsight, you can see the comments. This is the best locker room we've ever had. Thaddeus Young, Miles Turner, guys like that are saying that. Well, guess who left the locker room? Paul George. So they like each other. They're playing hard for each other. Vic Oladipo has gone from averaging 16 a game to 24. They're going to get in the playoffs, and that is a shock. They have some nice pieces for the future. Are they a rising star? No, but they need one. They get one more big name, whether it's a draft pick or someone decides to come as a free agent, and they got something.
Well, would they be better off not going to the playoffs this year?
Well, that's what we all thought. Well, hell, that's what I thought. So a lot of us thought that you guys kind of do the Philadelphia thing, tank a little bit, get in the lottery. That's the only way you're ever going to grow here in Indiana because free agents don't come here, not great ones. Look at history. They don't come here. Good ones come here, but you can get good ones anywhere you want. Great ones don't come here. So you better get a great player in the draft. Well, we didn't know that Oladipo might be a really foundation piece. We didn't know Sabonis is a foundation piece. And when I say might about Oladipo, he is. And then Miles Turner is. Those are 3 foundational pieces. They're not that far off. They're not, real close to winning the Eastern Conference Championship with this roster. But they get one more really good player, one more really good one, maybe luck into a good draft pick like they kind of lucked into Miles Turner. You never know.
And I'm still remembering Lance Stevenson. I believe you had written this at the time, and it was correct, that there had never been a recruit as good as him who had no one who wanted to take him as late as him. And now we fast forward about 10 years. He's the Indiana fan favorite.
Well, nobody wanted him because he came out of the New York sewage, and it's amazing he was eligible to play at UC. But whatever, he was. But he is the most fun guy, and I've been to his house, by the way. He's a nice guy. I've been in his house. He has the decorating sense of a savant. I mean, it's almost like Lance Stevenson ought to be sipping champagne and cognac because he's that cool in his house. It's really something else.
Learn something new every day. That is Greg Doyle. Check him out at the Indianapolis Star. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
My man. Thanks, Bomani.
No problem, man. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. You can save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now, that's Progressive.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Greg Doyle of the Indianapolis Star for joining us last segment. Adam Schefter of ESPN will join us in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. Remember, if you miss anything live, check out the Right Time podcast, available on the ESPN app. Amazon has got millions of toys and games to choose from this holiday for kids of all ages. Check out Amazon today. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Let's hit the phone. Talk to Francis in Maryland. Francis, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, good afternoon, Bo.
How you doing, man?
I wanted to give one of those, you said they had to put in your half calls. So just a couple of things. One on Jay Gruden. There is a reason why he deserves to be fired. And the biggest reason is that the team, he's an offensive coach, but this team has a lull every single game. And at first I thought it was me. I was like, did they seem to turn off in the second quarter and then wake up towards the end of the third? And so this week I was like, let me go and look. And I actually looked at the stats and looked at each game and was like, yeah, there's a full quarter where they don't score. and when you're a coach and you know that your team does this coming out of halftime, that's the responsibility of the coach. That's not Kirk Cousins. That's what he called you, the offensive coach. That's your responsibility.
I guess there is that, man. I still can't believe that team won as many games as they did this year. I feel like y'all just inclined to be mad.
I can't believe it either. But at the same time, you know, when you look and the offense isn't scoring for a full quarter and a half or something, then you can't just put it on the quarterback. As a coach, you're responsible for the team. You know, give one of those fiery speeches that we see in all the high school movies and stuff. I don't know what you got to do, but you got to figure that out.
Well, I'll tell you this. At least you have the chance to look forward to the possibility that your team will pay Kirk Cousins $30 million next year. Because they watch him tag him again. Watch him tag him again.
Don't do that to me, Bo.
I'm just saying. Well, what you going to do if they don't?
Listen, they're already in purgatory. Like, they can't do anything with Daniel Snyder. Like, since Daniel Snyder's been there, they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere going forward. So, you know what? At least have the semblance of hope in a quarterback that's coming in. We can just do that again. We already know what happens to Kirk Cousins. It's at best, if you're lucky, at best a 9-17 or 9-6-1, whatever. At best.
No, you on to something there, Francis, man. I appreciate the call, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Here's a question for you, Shannon. Who would you rather have on your favorite team, Daniel Snyder or Jim Dolan?
Ooh, boy. Okay, which Jim Dolan team are we talking about?
I'm talking about the Knicks.
Oh, give me Daniel Snyder. I'll take Snyder all day.
Really?
Yeah, over Dolan, yes.
You're basically just saying you'll take anybody over Dolan?
Yes.
Even Dan Snyder?
Yes.
You ever hear the way these people talk about that? That's all it is?
Now, if I'm getting New York Rangers Jim Dolan, I'll take him.
Yo, why is New York Rangers Jim Dolan so much better than New York Knicks Jim Dolan? Do you have an answer for that?
Apparently, he doesn't meddle nearly as much or care nearly as much as he does with the Knicks.
Like, I'd always wondered that. But they haven't won a Stanley Cup. They got to Stanley Cup Finals, but they haven't won one in, like, the Jim Dolan era, right? They got that one in 1994.
Correct.
The only championship that team done won in 77 years.
At the point, we got that one, though. Start the 1940 chance if you want to.
You got that one. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Man, let's go to another phone call. JR, Pennsylvania. JR, thanks for calling the right time.
Bomani, Shannon, thanks for taking my call. Second-time caller. Love you guys, man.
Thank you, man.
You're the best. I just want to talk about the Rockets, man. They're really good. They have great depth at the guard, just like the rest of the West does. But let's be real. The weakest, or let's say maybe the most non-depth position the Warriors have is the 4 and the 5, and the Rockets can't beat that at the Warriors' worst. So that doesn't make sense. The Rockets are going to be great, and they're good. Probably the best complementary 1 and 2 we have in the league. Not the best 2, but the complementary. But I don't think that their 4 and 5 even compares to the weakness of the Warriors.
Well, I think you may have something there, and I appreciate the call, although I don't think 4 is a weakness for the Warriors. They may be on depth, but they still have Draymond Green at the 4. The only thing is, I thought about this, Shannon. If you wind up with a series with the Rockets and the Warriors, who's Steph Curry guarding? Like, who's there for him to guard? Because he's got to guard Chris Paul, right?
Trevor Ariza?
Yeah, man, like that is part of a thing here if it comes to it. The other thing, man, remember this. The reason that the Warriors needed to get Kevin Durant was they needed another guy that could get his own shot. Now, the Rockets are interesting because Chris Paul can get his own shot. He's just typically not inclined to do that. But if you need Chris Paul to go out there and get you 30 in the playoffs, you can go look at it. Chris Paul will get you 30. The lack of postseason success in Chris Paul's career, I don't think there's anybody that can sincerely say that falls on Chris Paul. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Dag Richmond, New York. He got a why he quit football story, but we're a little bit too close to the end for me to feel like I can comfortably let him. Y'all get long-winded when they get to telling those stories.
Those stories are emotional. Like you can't just tell somebody, yeah, we got a minute left. You got to get you a why quit football. It's not going to work.
No. Everybody got the details that we need to hear. I am stuck on this, though, Shannon. We were talking about this a little earlier about whether when the Knicks play against the Thunder, Knicks fans are going to boo Carmelo. And I really feel like they are going to boo Carmelo because that's what they do. But I just hope y'all ain't that ungrateful.
All right, we actually have a Twitter poll up on the ESPN Radio Twitter account. And the question is, when Carmelo Anthony returns to MSG on Saturday, Knicks fans should, and the options are either boo him or cheer him.
Yeah, by the way, are the Knicks still good? I haven't been paying any attention to them lately. You still happy with them?
They're tied for 8th right now in the East. So
how you feel about that?
better than I thought they would be at this point. Not gonna lie.
For me, as someone who is not rooting for the Knicks, a nondescript Knicks team is the worst kind of Knicks team. Y'all either need to be sorry or y'all need to be good. But just to be an 8 seed, although if they are tied for the 8 seed right now, and I feel like them tied at the 8 seed, and if they play against Boston's a team they might be able to sneak a game from in the playoffs, and that's all it'll take. Y'all could be down 2-1. You'd be like, hey, man, I think it's coming down. Imagine this. Imagine they won a game at Boston in the first 2 in a playoff series. You'd be ready, wouldn't you?
Can't wait.
For what it's worth, I don't think it's subs have anybody that can guard Porzingis. Oh, we're coming up on the break already. Wow.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. All right, so you got Lakers-Cavs tonight, right? Thursday night game. With the Lonzo Ball situation, you get a few more opportunities to watch the Lakers. They generally get them. The late night games or whatever. They decided to go ahead and make this a Thursday night game. And I feel like everybody involved when they decided to make a Thursday night game was like, ooh, I know y'all heard LeBron might be going to L.A. We could talk about that all day long. And let me tell you something about the idea of talking about LeBron going to L.A. I was up this morning, getting toward the afternoon, and I started looking around for things that we could talk about on the radio show. Like, that's pretty much what I spend. Like, after we leave this show is pretty much starting all over to get ready for the next show. And then I looked on the website, and I don't remember where exactly it was I saw it, or maybe it been an email that I received. Shannon, some story about how LeBron would fit in with the Lakers, and that's how I knew we was going to be scraping the bowl today. I feel like they scheduled this whole thing on this game just in case there ain't nothing to talk about on Thursday. There ain't no college football. Well, I'm going to throw this in there. So, maybe if we need to, we just talk about LeBron going to L.A.
Not a coincidence, but I'll try to tell you, NBA in their scheduling, man, they are looking at these things, and they're taking over Thursday.
Yeah, is this really the takeover, though? Because I feel like now they're just like, look, man, y'all ain't really got nothing to talk about. Y'all can talk about LeBron going to L.A. And I feel like we should have learned our lesson from way back that we don't ever know what LeBron is going to do. LeBron just going to do it, and then we going to find out after the fact. One of my homeboys was talking about LeBron. He said he can't imagine what it's like to be married to LeBron. LeBron ain't going to tell you nothing. His wife ain't telling her nothing. Then you finally get him dead to rights, and all he do is get up and go to the other room. Like, that's LeBron. He's not going to tell us anything that it's about to be. No way. But we do have this game tonight, and fine, I'll do it. Shannon, do you think LeBron is going to go to the Lakers?
I mean, you just spent the opening montage of the segment explaining why we don't know what LeBron's going to do, so I have no idea.
Look, this is what we got. I need a hot take. I can't be the only person providing these hot takes. Somebody else get your take on. You think LeBron, you can see him going to the Lakers?
I can see LeBron James playing in the NBA next year. That's all I got.
That's all. Come on, man. We need hot takes. Everyone is offering unqualified hot takes when it comes to what it is that LeBron James is going to do. Is LeBron going to go to L.A.? Damn, here's what I don't get. We thought this would power this. We're 4 minutes in, and I'm out of gas already on the idea of LeBron going to L.A. I did see the thing, though, where LeBron got a new L.A. mansion, right? And so he got him a new mansion in L.A., and I think that people are looking at that like, oh, man, because they going to move to L.A., except for the fact Shannon wasn't the old L.A. mansion, the one that allegedly was scrawled upon by racists.
Yeah, the one in Brentwood, yes.
I can see why maybe he might want to move to a new one. I'd also be curious, what the residents of Brentwood thought about LeBron moving in. Imagine if he had moved on this. Okay. No need to tell that joke. I feel like y'all might take it too far.
And here's what I don't get. And of course, I don't have LeBron money, but I I don't understand having the mansions out there in L.A. Isn't Akron home? Like, isn't that the home? You got the castle and everything built?
Yeah, especially since you got a wintertime job, so it's not like you can go out there and just, like, post up in California for the time being. Can you imagine that, though, having the bread to pay $23 million for a house that you don't live in?
Say that one more time. Let that sink in. Say that one more time.
$23 million for a house that you don't live in. You don't even rent it out. You don't even have it on Airbnb. It's just sitting there. Can you imagine having that kind of bread? Can you imagine that? Think about that. Think about that.
Well, then that leads to my question, though. So when the Cavs are out there on the West Coast trip and you playing the Clippers and the Lakers, does LeBron stay at his crib? Like, does the whole team just stay at LeBron's crib?
Yeah, are there enough rooms in the crib where they can just check in there and, like, hire a maid service and just treat it like it's a hotel? I'm still thinking about that bread, though. The bread just to have just a $23 million house laying around. So, like, when I lived in Miami, right, I kick it fairly regular, and I'm paranoid, right? So, like, when I got to Miami, I was like, this ain't no guarantee. But I told myself, I'm going to get myself a dope spot. Like, that was the thing that I was going to do. And I have to tell you, the spot that I had in Miami, that was the one where I took the wonderful beachfront photographs for you while you were freezing your keister off wherever it was that you were. It was a nice spot. It was a really dope spot. Like, Shannon, you were there. You have to say, like, that was a nice spot.
Correct. Palatial, yes.
But you know what the difference was between me and everybody else who lived in that building? That was my one spot. I was there 12 months out the year. That was my one spot. Shannon, them jokers, this was one of their spots. My next door neighbors were gone for 6 months out of the year, and their crib was flyer than mine. This was one of their spots. Man, I guess I got another spot in Durham that I rent out for like $1,000 a month. Like, we're not talking about a real estate portfolio here. LeBron's just like, yo, that one house we don't live in, let's get us another house that we don't live in.
Well, in regards to LeBron and his pending free agency, I'd imagine it's either L.A. or bust, right? L.A. or bust. Like, I've seen reports that maybe Houston can creep into this, but it's for LeBron, doesn't it seem like it's going to be either one of the L.A. teams or Cleveland?
I could see Houston as maybe a possibility. Like, if we're talking strictly basketball here, right? Like, just the ability to win. Because, I mean, how many years does LeBron have left? Like, we talk about him going to the Lakers. Do you think they could instantly put a team around LeBron that could compete for a championship within, like, a year or two? Because I just don't feel like we can assume this LeBron thing is going to go on forever. I think it's easy to get into that trap, but at some point, the gas is going to run low on a situation like that. So if you drop, tell me this, you drop him on Houston right now, how many games do you think that team could win in a year? But could he and Chris Paul play together? As much as they say they want to play together, could they play together?
The one thing I am kind of rooting for, though, if the LeBron-Laker thing, though, is the LeBron and LeVar Ball dynamic. Like, I would love to see that.
Well, let's think about this for a second. If LeBron got to the Lakers and told Magic trade Lonzo, you think Magic trade Lonzo? Because I would trade Lonzo. Would you trade Lonzo?
I guess, I mean, LeBron's at this point now, though, like, essentially, if he goes to front office and whatever he asks them to do, they're going to have to comply, no?
You would think. Although Pat Riley wouldn't. Like, that's the thing. But that's why LeBron don't play there no more. Right? Because of those sorts of situations. I'm thinking, though, imagine LeBron coming to Houston. Because, look, only one person could be in charge. And it sounds like Chris Paul and James Harden have a personality match that allows for Chris Paul to be the one who's in charge. How long would it be if LeBron went to the Rockets before Chris Paul got up to him and was like, just because I ain't as tall as you don't mean nothing. Yeah, ask DeAndre. I'm going to get on this chair, put my finger in your face and tell you what I mean. Could you see that? Could you imagine that? I can see that. Also, though, imagine LeBron and Chris Paul on the same team. Think about this. LeBron, Chris Paul, and James Harden on the same team. All three guys can score. All three guys are playmakers. Two of the three can be very good on defense. The other one has a beard. But imagine those cats on the same squad. That's the team that could beat the Warriors. So if you're LeBron, think about this. If you're LeBron and you get to the finals again with Cleveland and y'all lose to the Warriors, you got to go just find whatever the Warrior beater team is that you can find. Now, I know that LeBron has visions. We talked to Pablo about this. Pablo wrote a feature about this. LeBron has visions of Hollywood, like of being an action star. And so the idea has been they'd move to L.A. and then you can start getting in line for all those things. But I feel like you can do that kind of stuff in the summer. Like, you don't need to live there all of the time. But is he going to stay in Cleveland? I guess he might stay in Cleveland. I will say this, though. There were never any real whispers of him leaving Cleveland when he signed those one-year contracts. This year has been nothing but whispers that he might leave Cleveland. And we've been talking about this now. I think the first time somebody told me about LeBron leaving Cleveland to go to L.A. that seemed to have some reputable source into it was September of last year. But that person told me it was going to be the Clippers rather than the Lakers. All that's to say, man, we just guessing. I ain't got no idea what LeBron's going to do. But thank you so much, anybody who broached that topic, because we needed to eat up those 10 minutes. And I eat minutes. I'm like Pac-Man. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Give us a call. We take your stories about why you quit playing football, by the way. And coming up next, how excited should the Packers be about Aaron Rodgers coming back? You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Adam Schefter of ESPN will join us next segment. Adam Schefter will join us at 5:30 Eastern. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Let's hit the phones right fast off to DJ Mike Hitman. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, Bo, let me say this right quick. You remember this saying, Houston, we have a problem. We don't know if Chris Paul going to break something on his body. He already broke something. Something's coming up to be broken. He'll be out.
Dang,
and when the
right?
playoffs start, hold on, and the playoffs start, we can't trust the fearless man because he's going to want to party. It's too much free time off, so it's going to be a party. So, Houston, you have a problem again. Just enjoy the regular season, and that's all you can enjoy. And now, let's get to New York. The only reason you win in New York, I want to let you really know why you're winning. You're playing so many home games at home. You know why? You better think really bring the brother circus because they retired because you will be on the West Coast. But wait till next year comes. 2018 is just around the corner. You got 2 weeks on the road. Then we'll look at your standings. Only thing I love in New York is the Statue of Liberty. Have a good one, Bo.
All right, Mike. I live in New York now. I thought you loved me, but it's whatever. Shannon, I didn't realize it until I looked it up. The Knicks have played 18 home games versus 9 road games. Look at Mike hitting that schedule like Woody Page.
Right, hitting all the facts. And I don't understand why Mike's coming at us. His team at the Celtics are at 24-6. Enjoy being in first place. Enjoy that you'll probably finish with the best record in the East, then eventually lose to the Cavaliers in the playoffs again. Enjoy that.
Word.
I'm just saying.
That's what it is.
Stating facts. It did happen.
Yeah, there's that. But had you noticed that they had played all them home games?
It was mentioned during the Laker game how well the Knicks have played at home this season. I didn't realize it was 13. Well, they played 18 home games. I didn't realize it was so many. But
how did that happen? I guess he said it's the circus. We gonna play it on the circus.
It's about time the Knicks aren't the ones that are the circus.
Oh, wow. You kind of hated on yourself. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So Aaron Rodgers back with the Packers. But hold up. Don't get it twisted. Aaron Rodgers wants to make sure you know he ain't wearing no cape.
I'm just going to bring the energy and enthusiasm that I always do to practice. Obviously, I think there's an expectation of the way I play on Sunday and how I'm going to play. I enjoy those expectations. I enjoy meeting those or exceeding those. That's what it means to be a leader in this locker room and the quarterback of this team is going out and performing and doing your job. Hopefully it gives a lift to some of the guys, but I'm not coming back to save this team. I'm coming back to play quarterback the way I know how to play it, and hopefully we all raise the level of our play collectively and find a way to win these 3 games.
I feel like Mike McCarthy heard that and it's like, no, I mean, you may not be here to save us. That might not be what you came to do, but that's why you here. Like, that's why we brought you here. You know, like, Chad, I feel like it's like me doing this radio show where I could be like, yeah, I'm here to do this because I really enjoy it and everything else. And they're like, yeah, you here to sell these ads too. Don't get it twisted. It's cool if you enjoy it while you're here. So Aaron Rodgers is like, yeah, I'm just here to do my best. Yeah, you can do your best, but what we asking you to do is save us. Just to be clear, like that's what we need in this. What are they, 7-6?
Now they're 7-6. They need to win out, and they're going to need some help as well.
Well, I got to say that I'm pretty impressed by the fact that they went 7-6 because I'm not here for the Brett Hundley thing at all. I have not been here for the Brett Hundley thing. I was not here for him when he was at UCLA. Like, this has never been a thing for me. they somehow managed to win those games with him. And, I mean, I feel like they got a couple of halfway decent games out of him maybe. Like, I got to go to the game log because every time I saw it, it looked like he was throwing the ball underhand. Right? Like whenever I saw him play, he's like, I want to throw the ball, but you're not allowed to throw it past that dude right there. What dude you talking about, Brett? The one right there that's holding that thing that's coming out the ground. It's at the end of the chain. I'm not allowed to throw it past him. But, right, I mean, like that's against the rules, right? Because he throws like it's against the rules for him to throw the ball ahead of the sticks. But now Aaron Rodgers comes back. Yeah, Shannon, 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 78 quarterback rating for Brett Hundley. Think about that. He completed 64% of his passes this year and had 6 yards an attempt.
While all of that is true, they're still in the race, though.
They are.
You think about as bad as mediocre as he's played, they're still in the race.
Well, somebody I don't think highly of, I have to give some measure of credit to in the grand scheme of this, right? It's either him or McCarthy. Because I'm not that wild about McCarthy, but, I mean, they came out of this whole thing much better than I ever thought they would have been able to without Aaron Rodgers. How many teams we've seen just flat out fall apart without a player the caliber of Aaron Rodgers? That didn't happen here. Good for them, right? I guess there's something to be said for that. Also, Aaron Rodgers wants to make sure you understand he's cool. He's going to be all right. There's no risk.
Yeah, I wouldn't be standing here ready to play if I wasn't confident I could go out there and play the way that I've always played. There's just no point in doing that. It's a risky game. It's a dangerous game. There's risks every time you step on the field. With the concussions that have happened in this game, that to me is something to be more worried about than altering your play to take a shot and land it on your shoulder again. So that's something that we deal with, and that's why we love this game. I think Mike Mitchell had a lot of good points when he was talking about the nature of this game. It's a physical game, and you have to go out and play as much as you can without fear. And that's why I'm here. That's why we're cleared, and that's why I'm playing.
Hey, I want to get right back to Brett Hundley right fast. Shannon, you want to know like just how weird this can be where you talk about like quarterback wins and stuff like that? I think the best game that Hundley played, 17 for 26 for 245 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game against the Steelers. The following week, he was 13 for 22 for 84 yards. They won the game where he threw for 84 yards. They lost the game where he threw for 245. In fact, just about every game it looked like where he played like halfway decently, other than the Bears. They got a win over the Bears where he played pretty well. But otherwise, they were just like, look, man, somebody got to snap. Somebody got to catch the ball. I feel like teams just need to go get wishbone quarterbacks in situations like these, don't you? Why not? Why not get somebody out there to run the ball? I don't know how hard it is to get your linemen and stuff reacquainted with running the bone, but I feel like maybe you just go get some dudes off the street, some high schoolers, be like, yo, man, we're going to run the bone. Because I tell you this, I've seen pitches in the wishbone that went farther than the passes that Hundley was throwing. 888-729-3776, that's our telephone number. You got to tell us these stories about when you quit playing football. Let's hit the phone, talk to Kyle in Brooklyn. Kyle, thanks for calling the right time.
Bo, what's going on, man?
What's happening, man?
Huge fan.
Thank you.
Hey, I might have had the shortest football career ever, man. So, football coach when I was in high school, I'm 6'6". At that time, I was about 260. I played basketball, though. I played for a school in Brooklyn named Lincoln. You might have heard of us. He got game. I actually played with Lance Stevenson. He was just talking about him.
Hey, Marv Albert went to Lincoln, too. That's my favorite thing to point out.
Marv Albert went to Lincoln. Lance Stevenson, Sebastian Telfair. You know the list.
Yes.
Stephon Marbury, of course. So the football coach wants me to come out and play. He's like, yo, you're athletic. I come to all the games. I see you. I want you to play for my team. I have been thinking about it, So senior year, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. My high school coach, Tiny, he hates when his starters, especially his starters, go to play football. It never worked out good for him, ever. One of my boys ended up with a screw in his ankle. It never works out good. So I'm walking in school. The first day I decide I'm going to play football. I go to practice, and then I see all of my basketball teammates got on the brand new KGs. They didn't even drop yet. We was an Adidas school. KGs didn't even drop yet. So I go to coach. Hey, coach, where's my KGs at? He says, man, I don't know if you're going to be available come the beginning of the season, so I got to save that gear for somebody who might need it. Yep, last day of football, baby.
You walked out right then?
Last day of football. Man, I wear 18, Bo.
Damn.
I wear 18. I need that free gear, man. We was the flyest Adidas dudes in New York City, we had everything. We ain't wearing no regular clothes. We just wore Adidas. When he said I couldn't get no gear because I was playing football, yeah, baby, I'm up out of here.
Hey, dude, Kyle, I appreciate you calling. And Shannon, I totally get it. If you wear a size 18, ain't nothing fly for you in the store.
You got to get what you can get, and if they get them free, that's what you got to get.
Duh, I wear a 13, and once while I was in high school, I thought I had moved up in the shoe to 14, and I forget which fly kick it was. I look at the dude at Foot Locker. I'm like, yo, you got that at a 14? My dude laughed in my face and walked away. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, Aaron Rodgers is coming back, but is that too late for the Packers? We'll ask Adam Schefter on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Hey, if you travel for work, listen up. Book your next business trip at Upside.com, and I'll give you two of the best gifts anyone will give you this holiday season. A free pair of Bose SoundLink wireless headphones so you can have some peace and quiet on your business trip, and the gift of a better business travel experience. Only Upside monitors your business trip around the clock, proactively keeping you posted on everything from the weather in the city you're going to changing your flight home so you can adjust your meeting schedule. Have you ever experienced that level of service before on a business trip? Nope. All that plus Upside is great prices for flights, hotel, and rental cars. Now, to get your free pair of Bose SoundLink wireless headphones, use my code Bomani when you book your first business trip at Upside.com. That's code Bomani at Upside.com to claim my free gift to you. Bose SoundLink wireless headphones. Upside.com. You deserve a better business trip. Headphones available while supplies last. Must be first Upside purchase. $600 minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Adam Schefter will join us now at 6:15 Eastern rather than at this moment. Brian Windhorst of ESPN also join us in the 6 o'clock Eastern hour. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Compare rates to help you save. That's Progressive. Call or click today and find out how much Progressive could save you. You guys been calling in with your stories about what made you quit football. 888-729-3776. Let's talk to Rich from New York. Rich, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Oh, man, finally get to talk to you, Bo. Thank you.
All good, man.
So I grew up in Utah, and I was a starting DB on the high school team. The defensive coach liked me. The DB coach did not, so he'd always try to undermine me and put his own guy in because, politics.
Yes.
So we ran this drill where we have to practice calling out crack blocks so dudes don't get lit up like Montez Burfict. And they threw a little fake in there for me where the receiver pretended to go to the linebacker, then started blocking me. I shoved him aside. Guy on the other side hit me square up right in the chin. And I was in a dream from then on where I was back on the bus driving down to football practice, which was made me mad because I'm like, I already did this. I don't want to go back to practice. I don't want to practice 4 times a day. I'm sitting on my helmet on the sideline watching some other team practice, and I'm so out of it that I think that my team left me. So, because all I'm seeing is guys in purple, and we're maroon. So I'm freaking out. Our quarterback's name was Ross. So I'm like, oh, where's Ross at? Where's Ross at? They left me. And then I hear a dude next to me say, yo, man, your team over there. So I turn around. Our team is still practicing. I was like, oh, all right, cool. So then defensive coach sees me, walks over to me and says, we're going to put you on the second string. And I was like, wait, but I still had no idea what had happened. I'm like, you're going to do me like this. Now, I'm upset about this, but a gentleman by the name of Haloti Ngata was also at this.
Oh.
His team was also at this camp we were at. And I remember my team played him later that day, and I just watched him hand out L's and work to folks. And I'm just like, nah, man, I'm good. I don't want no part of that. I made a business decision, and I stuck to basketball.
Yep, I got to say, Rich, that was a smart play. I appreciate the call. Can you imagine dealing with high school Haloti Ngata? You got anything on that?
Oh, no, I'm right there with him. No, I'm good.
Dude,
like
no.
That I'm good means everything in the world. It explains everything. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, no, thank you. Everything's cool. I'm straight. I'll just go over here on this treadmill. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So Andy Benoit of MMQB.com wrote this story that a lot of people really jumped on because it was operating with this idea. He believes that Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. Now, I have to say this, though, about Stafford. I have been hard on Stafford throughout his career. You know why I've been hard on Stafford throughout his career? Because normally we're hard on number one overall picks. For whatever reason, Matthew Stafford has skated through all of this. This is the 9th year for Matthew Stafford in Detroit. The Lions have not won a playoff game since he has been there. I have seen the blame thrown to everybody else. Never does the blame go to Stafford. Now, that being said, Stafford has had very little running support around him, and they are, in fact, the Detroit Lions. Yes, he had a long time of playing with Calvin Johnson, but I'm not saying the fact they haven't won is his fault. I am saying, though, he is now as good as I feel like people were saying he was 3 or 4 years ago. I don't think he was as good then as he is now, but I do think he's a pretty good quarterback, and he can do the thing that I think is as important as anything else for a quarterback. He can make dynamic throws, right? Like, that's a big part of it. You can make dynamic throws. You can have the guys out here who simply minimize mistakes, but if they can't make dynamic throws on top of that, then simply minimizing mistakes only goes but so far. But I don't think he's Russell Wilson, right? Like, I do not think that. Now, Benoit's story made this point where he said, if I were an offensive coach and I had to design an offense around a player and you gave me the choice of doing it between Russell Wilson and Matthew Stafford, I would take Matthew Stafford. But if I were a defensive coordinator and I had to decide which guy was more difficult to stop, I would rather play against Matthew Stafford than play against Russell Wilson. That's like, huh? And his argument is that if you are an offensive coordinator, then you can't do the timing and the rhythm stuff and everything else with Russell Wilson because his play is too, and I quote, random. Right? That he's just going to be out there running around. You got no idea what's coming next. So how do you call plays? How do you design an offense around that? But again, then on the other side, he's saying that is difficult to defend. Now, I read something. I think it was Doug Farrar of Bleacher Report who had something up that was talking about how the Seahawks have a plan. When Russell Wilson gets out of the pocket, there is a plan for what all those guys are doing. So it's not totally random. But stop and take a moment to think about the logic that's at play here and how weird football coaching is, right? The logic that's at play is if I'm an offensive coordinator, I would rather have a player who is not as talented, because if I have the player who is not as talented, I don't know what he's going to do, and nothing is more important than me and my precious system. That feels to me like the point that is ultimately being made. Now, Benoit, I thought, made the fair point about Russell Wilson being 5'11", and you do have to do things to design your offense around the fact that a guy is 5'11". Look, if he's 5'11", the offensive linemen are 6'5", and the defenders have their arms up, that's a reference that he made in the article, then yeah, you would rather have all things equal the tall guy. That makes sense. There's a reason why there has never been a quarterback as short as Russell Wilson who has been as successful as Russell Wilson. But he's so incredibly talented that only matters but so much. I saw it in college. I saw it here. It only matters but so much with him because of all the things that he's able to do. But the thing about the NFL and the scouts and all the stuff they say and everything else, stop and do the math on that for just 1 second. I would be more wedded to my system than I would be to a better player. Now, Benoit writes, and he says that there are ups and downs in the Seahawks offense, and he says that those ups and downs are caused by Russell Wilson. Now, I think many of us would make the argument the ups and downs are caused by the fact that, well, the ups are certainly caused by Russell Wilson. With that terrible running game that they've got and their poor offensive line, it's hard to say that the downs are entirely Russell Wilson's fault. And that's not because Russell Wilson isn't a flawed player, because he is. He runs out of too many pockets that he doesn't need to, all that kind of stuff. But listen to this. As much as we talk about the running games that Matthew Stafford has not had, Seahawks running backs since the start of last season, they're tied for 31st in rushing yards, which would mean that they're in last because that would be 31 and 32. They are 30th in yards per rush. They are, a 46% third down conversion rate. That's 25th. 12 rushing touchdowns. That's 29th. Like, there is no run game there. It's the same thing you say about Stafford. There is no run game there for Russell Wilson. They keep trying to figure this offensive line thing out. They have not figured it out. If you put Matt Stafford behind that offensive line, we just be out here talking about how tough Matthew Stafford is because he'd be getting the hell knocked out of him. But this is the way the NFL goes, and this is something that gets a lot of them in trouble. And I feel like in college they're much more flexible about this, and it's an important thing to note. Too many cats are more wedded to their systems and their own ideas of their own brilliance than they are to the actual players. One last thing, too. Benoit in that piece talking about Russell Wilson said, Darrell Bevell, he has a tough job because you never know what your quarterback is going to do. Darrell Bevell used to coach Brett Favre. I don't remember anybody talking about how hard Brett Favre made Darrell Bevell's job. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, find out how Rick Pitino was being a hater. Calm down, calm down. It doesn't involve anything like that. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Brian Windhorst of ESPN will join us next segment. Brian Windhorst will join us at 6 o'clock Eastern. Talk about Cavs and Lakers. Subscribe right now to 30 for 30 Podcast in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or Apple Podcast. Brought to you by Delta, making your travel experience informed, connected, and seamless. Keep climbing. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Let's take a phone call right fast with Elmer in Virginia. Elmer, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm just a big fan of yours. I was born and raised in Durham, North Carolina. I went to school at NC State, so I love your North Carolina stories.
Thank you, man.
And I was just wondering, do you think Westbrook is going to turn into Allen Iverson, where everybody loved his passion at first, and then nobody wanted to play with him because he was a ball hog, and he didn't change his ways and work with people? I mean, Jordan could have been the same way, whereas he was all about stats and scoring. But until he changed his ways and learned to play with people, that's when he started winning. Like Kobe could have been in the same boat too.
Well, that's an interesting question, and I appreciate the call. Here's one thing, though. Can somebody show me that year that the reason that the Thunder didn't win a championship was because Russell Westbrook didn't pass people the ball? Right? Like, I don't feel like you really have that example. They have been so much more, now granted, Kevin Durant was there, but they've been so much more successful in Oklahoma City with Russell Westbrook than I think I just don't think it makes it fair to do this. Because think about this. This is a big difference between Russell Westbrook and Allen Iverson. They kept having to trade them other dudes out of there with Allen Iverson. Shannon, what was the list? Larry Hughes, Jerry Stackhouse, then Larry Hughes. When there another one?
As far as his complimentary piece?
Yeah, that they ultimately had to send somewhere else.
Keith Van Horn at one point.
Oh, that's right.
Derek Coleman was the second guy.
Yeah, they kept
Chris Webber was the second guy at one point.
Now, granted, he was done by the time he got there, but they kept trying to get second guys, and none of them would work. Russ worked very well with Kevin Durant for a very long time. So I think it's very easy for us to just talk about this because Russ, like last night, he had a triple-double, but he was 3 for 17 from the floor or something like that. The problem right now with Russell Westbrook is not that he doesn't play with others. It's that he's not making shots. Like we talked about this the other day. What has happened to his shooting percentage this year is something that almost makes you wonder if he's hurt. Let me pull these up right fast just so you understand that, yeah, I get where people's coming from because it's really easy to just get in line with that idea that, okay, the problem is Russ just takes too many shots. Russ is taking 4 fewer shots a game this year than he was last year. This year, Russell Westbrook is only averaging 22.6 points per game. The problem is last year he shot 42.5% from the field. This year he's shooting 38.9% from the field. Last year was 45.9% from two. This year, 41.9% from two. Last year, 34.3% from three, which was his best three-point percentage ever. This year, 31.2% from three. If he makes more of these shots, we're not having the discussions that we're having right now. Melo, I think, has been just as big a problem. And this, by the way, tells you what a shield Russell Westbrook can be for other players. Because, Shannon, we've spent our whole lives, basically, as basketball fans, talking about how it was that you couldn't win with Melo. You can't win with Melo. You can't win with Melo. Melo down there not playing well, and now we're going to blame that on Russell Westbrook, too.
Think about it. We've talked about Westbrook's struggles. We talked about Paul George's struggles. Melo hasn't shot the ball well, and we're not even talking about that. We haven't brought up ISO Melo one time this season.
Melo is shooting 40% from the field. His career average from the field is 45. He's 43 last year from the field. Again, Billy Donovan, where are you? Right, because even if this is a matter of Russell Westbrook got to change or whatever it is, and that means the coach got to be the one to make this thing change. Now, of course, there's another problem that comes up in this, which is Russell Westbrook is the guy with the longest contract in the house, and that means that he is the guy that has all the juice. He is the guy who has all the clout. But I still feel like this is one where they can figure this out. But I think Melo making shots is as important as anything else.
I've noticed that they have Melo playing a lot with the second string. Do you think there's ever a point where Donovan goes to Melo and say, hey, we might want to start bringing you off the bench?
I feel like the general manager got to be the one to do that.
The owner, maybe?
Yeah, but here's another wild one, Shannon. talking about these falling shooting percentages. Last year, Carmelo shot 83% from the free throw line. This year, he's shooting 76% from the free throw line. That's the other one that's staggering and bizarre with Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook has always been a good free throw shooter. Last year, he shot a career high 84.5% from the free throw line. This year, it's 71.7%. Right. So, I feel like there's something else that's going on here, because I don't think any of this not passing the ball or not sharing anything else, that does not explain why Russell Westbrook would be making fewer free throws than he had before. The other one, let's see how many he's attempting. Shannon, last year he attempted 10 free throws a game. This year he's only attempting 7. I understand totally and completely why it is that so many people wind up getting to the argument, well, the problem is don't nobody want to play with Russ. Russ don't want to pass the ball to nobody. I just don't think that's really what it is. It's not like he's putting up the same usage rate this year that he was putting up last year. He's putting up a usage rate that's in line with what he did when Kevin Durant was there. Why aren't these other cats making shots? No one asked that. Why is he not making free throws? No one asked that. That's what I'm more curious about. But 888-729-3776, that's our telephone number. Coming up next, how seriously are the Cavs taking LeBron to L.A. rumors? We'll talk to Brian Windhorst on ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. We got Lakers and Cavs tonight in Cleveland. On the line with us, our ESPN reporter's name is Brian Windhorst. So, Brian, I guess the story we're having to make out of this game, since the Lakers aren't good, is we're already looking to LeBron going to Los Angeles. We're starting there already. Is that a thing that's hanging around this team, or just something that we're talking about from here?
It's not hanging around the Cavs, but it's out there in the league. Certainly people are talking about it. And on one hand, it's irrelevant because it doesn't matter today or tomorrow or next week. But on the other hand, I think there's a belief that LeBron is going to be in play this summer. And when LeBron is in play, the balance of the league is tilted. It's happened. We've seen it happen several times now. So, and there's two tracks on this, Bomani, and I don't know if fans always understand it. For LeBron, he doesn't have to bat his eyes or do anything to lay any groundwork, because when he becomes a free agent, he will make his decision, whether it's staying in Cleveland or it's going to Houston or L.A. or another team, and everything will change from there. But for the teams, they don't have the luxury of waiting until LeBron makes up his mind in July. They have to lay the groundwork months in advance. So here we have the Cavs playing the Lakers tonight. We have LeBron ever since the summer saying nice things about Lonzo Ball. We have LeBron and his wife touring high schools in L.A. We have LeBron upgrading to a nicer mansion that he previously had in Brentwood. And so you have all those things happening, and LeBron can look you in the eye and honestly say that doesn't mean anything towards the summer. But the Lakers can look at it and say, we've got to prepare for the summer. And both of those things can be true and correct.
Now, how seriously are the Cavs now taking the idea that he might leave? Because I imagine Dan Gilbert doesn't ever want to get fooled again.
Well, the Cavs have operated on some version of a razor's edge since LeBron came back, when he told them, yes, I will take a one-year contract. Now, after the title, he signed a 2+1 deal. So last summer was the first year in 3 years LeBron was not a free agent. So the fact that this is coming up, and the fact that there's legitimate teams out there that have cap space, such as the Lakers, such as the 76ers, I think they feel a little bit of a renewed pressure. And to me, Bomani, what that means is, and this was created the day the Kyrie Irving trade happened, we're going to come to an interesting little pressure point, whether it's in January or February or whenever. Do they trade that pick with the, that Brooklyn pick that they have to attempt to strengthen their team this year to hang on to LeBron, or do they save it as an insurance policy for LeBron to walk away? It's a very difficult question. You could ask 10 executives out there, and they could all be experienced, and they give you 10 different answers, and they would all be reasonable. This is a little bit of uncharted territory. But the bottom line is, to get back to your question, yeah, the Cavs have to compete to win today, and they have to have an upset stomach about LeBron's future tomorrow.
Now we're talking to Brian Windhorst of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, how good is this Cavs team right now? Started slow, but then had the big win streak.
This is a terrifically well-rounded and deep offensive team. They are getting amazing production out of Kyle Korver. Right now, I would argue that Kyle Korver is one of the best signings of last summer. He signed a very reasonable contract with the Cavs. He's leading the league in three-pointers off the bench. He looks terrific. Dwayne Wade and Jeff Green, two guys playing on minimum contracts, giving the Cavs terrific role-playing off the bench. And then you have LeBron, who is playing some of the most efficient and finest basketball and some of the best positionless basketball of his career, playing point guard at one end, playing defensive center at the other end at times. He had 17 assists in his last game, tying his career high. I mean, that speaks alone. And this is all coming with the fact that they have arguably their second-best player hasn't played a second yet in Isaiah Thomas, and him coming back will inject them with even more, star power. That said, there are some flaws there. They don't have a backline defense. They basically play Kevin Love at center, and he gets eviscerated at the rim night in and night out. And I still don't know if they have the kind of discipline or the kind of firepower to keep up with the Warriors. So they're doing really, really well, but they're being held to such a high standard, the Warrior standard, that it's hard for them to look at themselves and say, we feel great about our chance to win the title.
Well, is the only room they would have to improve the roster the pick?
Realistically, probably. I would argue that they're going to make a major adjustment, a major addition, an all-star addition here in a week to 10 days when Isaiah Thomas comes back. To me, I would say, talk about a midseason addition. The other thing I would say is Jay Crowder, who was a really important part of that trade, has not played well at all. I think they're 12-0 this year when he scores in double digits. But that's, less than half their games. He has not played like the guy that they traded for. And if he gets back to playing his normal basketball, that to me is almost an addition. But if you look at their roster, there's not a lot of assets there. There's not a lot of things that you would say another team would say, we want that, other than the pick. And, a couple of the guys that they have their eye on, like maybe DeAndre Jordan, or if things continue to go shaky in Oklahoma City, maybe they would dream that Paul George might be available in 6 weeks. Probably not, but maybe it would be. Both of those guys are free agents to be. And so you'd be doubling down on your risk profile. And that's just a real difficult thing for them to navigate. So, they're in a great place. They're just, they're dealing with a set of circumstances that make getting better and competing at the highest level pretty difficult.
All right, talking to Brian Windhorst of ESPN here on The Right Time. Was Derrick Rose walking away from this team strictly in basketball terms, addition by subtraction?
Well, you could argue, and wouldn't take a master prosecutor to do it, that Jose Calderon, a guy who I thought was maybe never even going to play a meaningful minute for the Cavs this year, that Jose Calderon has been dramatically better for the Cavs than Derrick Rose was, because Jose Calderon can hit an outside shot. He's shooting over 42% from three-point range. He doesn't make mistakes, and he's in the right place at the right time, even though he's a terrible defender. When you look at the way Derrick Rose plays, it makes it very hard for the Cavs to stretch the floor with him. He sometimes gets locked on the rim, goes flying into the middle, gets his shot blocked or misses, and now he's laying under the basket. The other team's on a fast break the other way. I mean, since Derrick Rose got hurt, the Cavs are 15-1. And they are something in the neighborhood of, I think, 13-2 with Jose Calderon as their starter this year. Their defense is dramatically better with Jose Calderon starting over Derrick Rose. Their offensive efficiency is dramatically better. I mean, some of those are circumstantial stats, but right now, even if Derrick Rose was 100% healthy, even if he was, cleared to play tonight, he would not be in the Cavs rotation. That doesn't mean that something might not happen, that they need him later in the year. That doesn't mean that there wouldn't be a matchup in the playoffs where maybe he would make sense for them to use. But it has been proven in the short term this year that Derrick Rose is not a great fit for this Cavs team. And to be honest with you, Bomani, once they signed Dwayne Wade and they had another player who was a ball handler who didn't stretch the floor, I don't know how much Derrick Rose made sense for this team, especially since what Dwayne Wade brings is better than what Derrick Rose brings.
Now, are the Cavs also crossing their fingers and hoping J.R. Smith starts consistently hitting shots again?
It's been fascinating. 2 years ago when they won the championship, he was a vital part of the team, and he got a $50 million contract because of it. And he just hasn't quite been the same player. He still contributes. I mean, he still defends decently, not every night. The other night when they basically were down to no point guards because Dwayne Wade was out and he's been playing point guard for them. J.R. Smith played some point guard, and he had 8 assists. I mean, he's contributing in little ways. He's helping them win, but one of the fascinating things about this team is that their starters have been just average, and their bench has been one of the best benches in the league. And part of that, as I mentioned, Jay Crowder has struggled, and part of it is that J.R. Smith has struggled. And, they're going to be facing some changes coming soon when Isaiah Thomas comes back, and I don't know. There may be a temptation to reduce J.R.'s playing time, but that's another way that they can improve the team without making a major trade, would be to get Jay Crowder and J.R. Smith, two guys that they really count on to be key complementary pieces, back to playing the level that they expected them when they made the deals to get those two guys.
All right, last question for Brian Windhorst of ESPN here on The Right Time. Is this the best you've seen LeBron play so far this season?
It's the smartest and most efficient basketball I've ever seen him play. If you go to YouTube and you start pulling up clips of him in 2011 and 12 and watch him go flying down the lane and dunking on people, and you watch him today, you would say, well, look, he's past his peak. That's not the same LeBron, and I would agree. But, there was a play the other night. They beat the 76ers over the weekend where Brett Brown brought this very creative double team on LeBron. And within a split second, LeBron threw a laser beam cross-court pass through the lane to set up a three-pointer to clinch the game. And I don't think LeBron could make that pass 5 years ago. I don't think he would recognize the defense. He's gotten to the point where he's almost like Peyton Manning. No matter what you throw at him, he knows the countermeasure. And because this roster is set up with players that fit around him, specifically these great three-point shooters, he has all the tools at his disposal to take advantage of what teams do. It took a long time to figure it out. Partially figured out in Cleveland, partially figured out in Miami. But now the Cavs have benefited from all the data of what it takes to put the perfect complementary pieces around LeBron, and he is combining it with his knowledge and understanding of the game and his focus on this season. And what you have is an incredibly dominating player who can have 17 assists, go 11 of 13 shooting, and play elite-level defense from point guard to center, all in the same game as he did just 2 days ago.
All right, that is Brian Windhorst. Check out covering the NBA for us here at ESPN. Thanks so much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now, don't stress over the holidays. 1-800-Flowers.com makes it easy to find great holiday presents for great prices, like up to 40% off best-selling bouquets, arrangements, and holiday goodies. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Kean Fahey of PreSnapReads.com will join us next segment. That's the old soul song of the day. Christmas just ain't Christmas without the one you love by the OJs. It sounds kind of happy considering it's a really depressing song. All right, on the line with us right now, he is our NFL insider. You know him. His name is Adam Schefter. All right, Adam, Alvin Kamara expects to play this week for the Saints, but how cautious do you think they should be with him in this injury?
Well, listen, if he's cleared, he's cleared. Obviously, you're going to be concerned about somebody that good any time. But the fact of the matter is you can only go by what the doctors tell you. He had a full participation in practice this week, and it's a situation where they feel good about him. That's the way it goes.
All right,
he'll be out there.
All right, talking to Adam Schefter of ESPN here on The Right Time. Do we have any additional or update information about Ryan Shazier and his condition?
Yeah, the hospital released a statement today that I could read to you because the information on this particular incident has obviously been very sparse, very delicate, very sensitive. The severity of it and the sensitivity of it. When you're not getting the information that you're curious about and you don't know what the actual deal is, I think that tells you volumes, right? But the statement released by UPMC to the hospital where he's staying, Ryan Shazier remains hospitalized at UPMC, recovering from the spinal stabilization surgery performed last week by UPMC neurosurgeons and Steelers team physicians. Mr. Shazier has started physical rehabilitation as part of his recovery process. Further updates will be provided by UPMC. So look, he's had spinal stabilization surgery. He's still in the hospital 10 days later. He's on IR for the year. What does that tell you?
Yeah, nothing positive, I would say that.
Nothing positive.
All right, we are talking
nothing positive.
We are talking to Adam Schefter of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, changing gears just a little bit, John Dorsey is the new general manager of the Browns. How likely do you think it is that Hugh Jackson makes it to 2018?
That's what everybody's talking about. Look, again, we'll go by what Jimmy Haslam said when they hired him. He said, Hugh Jackson, these are the owner's words, will return as our coach in 2018. But I think the fact of the matter is everybody can just look at this and know that Hugh Jackson would not have been the coach that John Dorsey would have picked coming in as a GM. And John Dorsey was wooed by the Browns as soon as they really wanted. And eventually, whether that's a month from now, a year from now, or 2 years from now, John Dorsey's going to get the coach that he wants in there. But I think in this particular case, he's smart enough to defer to the man that hired him. And the fact of the matter is the players in Cleveland love playing for Hugh Jackson. They really do. Now, the results have not been great. He's yet to win a game on a Sunday as the Cleveland Browns head coach. We just passed the 2-year mark since the Browns' last Sunday victory, which was when Johnny Manziel led them to a 24-10 victory over the 49ers on December 13th, 2015. Hugh Jackson's 0 for September, 0 for October, 0 for November, has not won a game in those months as the head coach of the Browns. They've squandered a number of picks, but the fact of the matter is he's not John Dorsey's guy. So the owner has proclaimed that he'll be back. The GM is just watching everything. Hugh does got the respect of his players. But, look, it's an arranged marriage that I think we all could agree that at some point is destined to fail.
Now, the Browns tried to do a pretty radical thing with the structure of their front office before they had fired Sashi Brown. How much work do you think it'll take for Dorsey to reform that organization?
It's a tough question to answer, Bomani. All I could say is, look, they're going to have the first pick in the draft. They're then going to have another top 10 pick, very likely number 5 or number 6. So the front office structure, he can figure that out as long as you're taking the right quarterback at 1 and the right running back or wide receiver at 6. Like, it's not a problem. If you get 2 blue-chip playmaking guys, like Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott, they weren't the 1st and 6th overall picks, but what kind of effect did 2 rookies have on the Dallas Cowboys organization? So it's similar for Cleveland. If the Cleveland Browns go, and I'm just making this up, Josh Rosen at 1 and Saquon Barkley at 6, and they come in there and those guys are studs, I think the front office structure will take care of itself.
All right, we're talking to Adam Schefter of ESPN here on The Right Time. Before we let you go, we're talking about John Dorsey. The Giants were reportedly interested in him. Him not getting that job, does that mean that Dave Gettleman is probably the guy in New York?
Well, I would just say that Dave Gettleman is a leading candidate. I think there are a lot of people in the football world who think ultimately that he'll get it. But, again, it's a process that they're going to go through. I'm not ready to say he's the leading guy when they may look at a bunch of other guys for that particular job. So I think he'll be in the mix. I don't think that they're ready to go hire. Look, if he was the guy, they go hire him tomorrow if they want. They haven't done that, right? So that tells me that they're open to at least speaking to other people and that I think Dave Gettleman will be in the mix, but I don't know that ultimately he'll be the guy. We'll find out soon enough.
All right, that is Adam Schefter, our insider on the NFL here at ESPN. Thanks so much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bomani. Have a great weekend.
All right, man, you too. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Adam Schefter of ESPN for joining us last segment. Joining us now in studio once again. I ain't go to Ireland, but Ireland came to us. Check him out, presnapreads.com, also the Nickel Package Podcast. His name is Kean Fahey. All right, Kean, we talked a little bit earlier in the show about the story on MMQB about Russell Wilson and Matthew Stafford, where Andy Benoit made the point that he'd rather have Matthew Stafford if he were running his offense, but if he were a defensive coordinator, he'd also rather face Matthew Stafford because he feels that Russell Wilson just does more random things that are hard to plan for. What do you think about that?
I think there probably are coaches who will say that, but there are also coaches who would probably still argue you can't win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson even though he's won one. These guys like this can often just be stubborn and just want the control. I also don't really understand the argument because Russell Wilson's very predictable. He's predictable in what he does. Obviously, he has the crazy highlight plays that are unpredictable, that where he's making guys miss and you're performing outside of structure, and he's great at that. But he's predictable overall because the ball either comes out instantly or it doesn't come out until it's late. And those are the plays where you don't have any control. But Darrell Bevell, the Seahawks offensive coordinator, he has built an offense there that really works for Wilson, and it's an offense designed around Wilson getting the ball out quickly, and he does that very well. I don't really understand the whole point, to be honest.
Well, like, the one thing I took from that is I felt like he was saying that offensive coordinators are more wedded to their idea of what an offense should be than an actual functional offense. And we've seen this year, for example, Bill O'Brien loosened up on the way that he ran his offense. What do you know? Success.
Yeah, well, that is an issue, but there's no real reason to use Wilson and Stafford for that, because Stafford isn't this great guy who's all about mental, all about cerebral, all about great decision making. His whole career has been defined by making bad decisions, by being hugely inaccurate, by playing out of structure. 2 years ago, they changed their offensive coordinator to Jim Bob Cooter, and they changed it to go to a more simplified passing game. They did not change it to expand the passing game and rely on Stafford doing all these brilliant things. If anything, you would say Stafford and Wilson are quite similar.
All right, we're talking to Kean Fahey, presnapbreeze.com here on The Right Time. Switching gears a bit. John Dorsey just took over as the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, and he said that the last regime didn't get real players. I think that's what he said, that they didn't get real players. What do you think about that? Because, I mean, this is an over roster.
I think the first thing I noted was this is a very weird thing for a GM to say. And I think the reason he's saying it is because Sashi Brown is not kind of in that football guy club. He's seen as an outsider, and that's been the theme there for a long time. You look at the beat writers, you look at the way people talk about their moves, the way they judge them, and I think it's incorrect. I don't think it's fair at all. You've got some holes there, obviously. It's not a great roster, but it's not a roster that should be over. Myles Garrett has been phenomenal when he's played. Obviously, he was a number one pick, so you'd expect him to be phenomenal. Jason McCourty is still a good cornerback. You've got Jamie Collins there, who's been hurt this year. He's a very, very good player, one of the best linebackers in the league. You've got Emmanuel Ogbah coming off the edge. That's another fantastic talent who was a relatively high pick. Real athleticism there to get in the backfield and create penetration, get tackles for losses. I think he's got huge numbers on those this year. But then you jump over to the offensive side. Josh Gordon was kind of the thing they missed this year a lot because they had no speed at receiver. They had no one who could get open. And when Kaiser was accurate and when he did throw receivers open, they would still drop the ball too much. Guys like Rashard Higgins. The offensive line was meant to be better than it is, but it's still a pretty good offensive line overall. It's not a bad unit, and the running back situation is really good. The only real reason you can complain about the roster is they don't have a clear quarterback.
You are not much on Hugh Jackson as head coach.
I think I talked about this last week. I really like his offense, like when he was at the Bengals. I really liked his offense even last year when he was working with a less talented team. And this year he kind of just went crazy. He was just there was one play earlier this year where they did that thing where you have your offensive tackles go outside the numbers. So you've got three offensive linemen in front of the quarterback, and they threw deep off of that. You've got a rookie quarterback and he's got to hold the ball behind a 3-man offensive line and throw a receiver open deep downfield. That's just kind of crazy. And then you have all this stuff where he comes out after games and he's honestly, we probably like it in the media that these guys are honest, but he comes out after games and he seems to just kind of blame his players all the time. And that can't be something you enjoy playing for.
All right, we're talking to Kean Fahey, presnapbreeds.com here on The Right Time. So what do you think the chances are for the Eagles now that Nick Foles is in charge?
So here's the thing. Like, who's the best team in the league?
That's a good question.
So the best team in the league for me is the Minnesota Vikings. What have they already done this year? Lost their quarterback. So we're going to say the Eagles are dramatically worse because they've lost their quarterback? I don't think so. Like, I think the offense they run there is heavily dependent on the quality of their offensive line. It's heavily dependent on making reads, or like RPOs, and very lot of play action. The running game with Ajayi and Blunt and I can't remember the other younger guy there.
Clement, right?
Yeah, you know it, and I didn't.
I don't know his first name, though.
I think it's Corey. But the running back core there is really good. Alshon Jeffrey's still able to kind of elevate a quarterback with his catch radius. And the tight end, Zach Ertz, is pretty good too. Like, Nick Foles isn't, like, he's not a good quarterback, and he's also not a good backup quarterback. That's something people have existed for some reason. I don't know why that happens. If you're outside the 32, you're not good. We shouldn't be using the word good at all. But in that situation, with the league as it's currently set up, with Aaron Rodgers out, although he's coming back, without a quality quarterback on a good team, I still don't think the Eagles season is over. There isn't a team in the league that has a great quarterback and a great roster. You kind of saw that last week with the Patriots with Brady. That roster is not great. He's still great, but that roster is not great.
Actually, we talked to Key and Faye, PreSnapReads.com here on the Right Time. One thing I took from that game with Brady, I was like, ooh, those deep balls are taking a while to get there.
That time of the year, man. Like, this is something I charted last year. It became a big thing in Boston because they were really mad at me about it. During the playoffs last year, his deep ball dropped off. His accuracy dropped off. And I know it's a kind of a hacky thing to say last year, but I do think the actual suspension at the start of the year ended up helping him because he didn't have to play all those games. Because we're at the point now, we're 13, 14 games into the season, and it's starting to show up again. So if you're throwing the ball at 40 years of age, that's kind of something you expect to happen, and we're all kind of reticent to do it with Brady because we've done it before and got burned. But if you were just looking at it objectively right now, you would say there has to be a concern about him throwing deep. And this is where Julian Edelman being out is huge.
There's a certain irony here. I'm sitting here with the Irish guy, and the thing we have in common is that Boston hated us both there for a stretch. His name is Kean Fahey. Check him out on the Nickel Package podcast. What do you think about Jimmy Garoppolo after this weekend's game?
Okay, I think we talked about him last week, and I said we didn't really learn anything about that game because it was a conservative game plan and there was no real pressure. Completely changed this week. This week, Jadeveon Clowney was living in the backfield. They were getting pressure on him a lot. And he had a kind of a fascinating game because there was a 6-play stretch in the end of the first quarter and the start of the second where he threw an interception, he threw another interceptable pass, he threw another interceptable pass, then made a phenomenal play throwing deep, threw another interceptable pass, and then made another phenomenal play into a tight window, throwing back across the field against pressure. His receiver dropped the pass. So you had that kind of 6-play stretch where 4 things were awful, 2 things were great, and his whole game kind of went that way. The one major concern I have with him, and it's the same concern I had before when he was only playing in the preseason, he does not have much velocity on his passes. He struggles. We talked about this with Kirk Cousins before. If he's on the far hash trying to throw outside the numbers on the other side of the field, those balls are always going to be at risk of getting intercepted. One of his interceptable passes was a deeper shot down the sideline where the safety was able to actually just run and wait for the ball as it arrived. And that's a thing you can't really cover up.
All right. Now, before we go, we've got the upside matchup of the week. Jadeveon Clowney against the Jaguars offensive line. What do you see?
I just mentioned him earlier because Clowney, I think if Clowney played 100 plays last week, he wasn't blocked in 95 of them, and he was just permanently abusing everyone around him. If Clowney played 20 years ago, he'd be the face of the league because he's probably the best run defender in the league. That's not that valuable. But against the Jaguars are going to want to run the ball, so he's going to have a huge impact on that game.
Now, so do you think overall that Clowney has actually gotten to a point now where he's kind of like as good as we thought he could be?
He's still got a little bit to go. As a pass rusher, he's still developing, which is fine because he's still relatively young. The thing that kind of annoys me with the Texans right now, they drop him into coverage. They ask him to move around. He lines up at line. A story of that game last week was him lining up at inside linebacker, and then Kyle Shanahan recognized that and just spread the field, and suddenly Clowney has to play in space and cover Carlos Hyde on a 2-way goal from the slot. And that's just never going to work. So hopefully they can just put him in one position, even if you're just keeping him on the defensive line, moving him inside, outside, but leave him be there so he can develop as a pass rusher, get more versatile, get more of those moves where he's not relying on just being physically overwhelming.
This is a dude that has to play inside linebacker, 5 technique defensive end, and a rush from the outside. That's a lot.
But the crazy thing about it is, when he does line up an inside linebacker and they run the ball, it's phenomenal. It's just him running through bodies and then blowing off them, and it works, but it's too easy to take advantage of.
All right, that is Kean Fahey. Check him out, PreSnapReads.com. Also, the Nickel Package podcast here on ESPN. Thanks so much, my man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now, this holiday season, Upside.com is giving all business travelers the gift of a better business travel experience. Just book your next business trip at Upside.com. You deserve a better business trip. Upside.com. Hey, book your next business trip at Upside.com and you'll get 2 of the best gifts anyone will give you this holiday season. A free pair of Bose SoundLink wireless headphones so you can have some peace and quiet on your business trip and the gift of a better business travel experience. All that plus Upside has great prices for flights, hotel, and rental cars. Now, to get your free pair of Bose SoundLink wireless headphones, use my code Bomani when you book your first business trip at Upside.com. That's code Bomani at Upside.com to claim my free gift to you. Bose SoundLink wireless headphones. Upside.com. You deserve a better business trip. Headphones available while supplies last. Must be first Upside purchase. $600 minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Kean Fahey at PreSnapReads.com for joining us in the last segment. Thanks to Adam Schefter of ESPN for joining us in the 6 o'clock Eastern Hour. Thanks to Brian Windhorst of ESPN for joining us in the 6 o'clock Eastern Hour. And thanks to Greg Doyle of the Indianapolis Star for joining us in the 4 o'clock Eastern Hour. Remember, you miss anything live, check out the Right Time podcast available on the ESPN app. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. All right, Shannon, what we miss out on today?
All right, Andy Benoit of Sports Illustrated wrote a piece on Russell Wilson and the conundrum that the Seahawks have with his style of play. And if you haven't heard, here's Bomani Jones earlier today on The Right Time discussing Russell Wilson.
Benoit, I thought, made the fair point about Russell Wilson being 5'11", and you do have to do things to design your offense around the fact that a guy is 5'11". Look, if he's 5'11", the offensive linemen are 6'5", and the defenders have their arms up, that's a reference that he made in the article, then yeah, you would rather have all things equal the tall guy. That makes sense. There's a reason why there has never been a quarterback as short as Russell Wilson who has been as successful as Russell Wilson. But he's so incredibly talented that only matters but so much. I saw it in college. I saw it here. It only matters but so much with him because of all the things that he's able to do. But the thing about the NFL and the scouts and all the stuff they say and everything else, stop and do the math on that for just 1 second. I would be more wedded to my system than I would be to a better player. Now, Benoit writes, and he says that there are ups and downs in the Seahawks offense, and he says that those ups and downs are caused by Russell Wilson. Now, I think many of us would make the argument the ups and downs are caused by the fact that, well, the ups are certainly caused by Russell Wilson. With that terrible running game that they've got and their poor offensive line, it's hard to say that the downs are entirely Russell Wilson's fault. And that's not because Russell Wilson isn't a flawed player, because he is. He runs out of too many pockets that he doesn't need to, all that kind of stuff. But listen to this. As much as we talk about the running games that Matthew Stafford has not had, Seahawks running backs since the start of last season, they're tied for 31st in rushing yards, which would mean that they're in last because that would be 31 and 32. They are 30th in yards per rush. They are, a 46% third down conversion rate. That's 25th. 12 rushing touchdowns. That's 29th. Like, there is no run game there. It's the same thing you say about Stafford. There is no run game there for Russell Wilson. They keep trying to figure this offensive line thing out. They have not figured it out. If you put Matt Stafford behind that offensive line, we'd just be out here talking about how tough Matthew Stafford is because he'd be getting the hell knocked out of him. But this is the way the NFL goes, and this is something that gets a lot of them in trouble. And I feel like in college, they're much more flexible about this, and it's an important thing to note. Too many cats are more wedded to their systems and their own ideas of their own brilliance than they are to the actual players. One last thing, too. Benoit in that piece talking about Russell Wilson said Darrell Bevell, he has a tough job because you never know what your quarterback is going to do. Darrell Bevell used to coach Brett Favre. I don't remember anybody talking about how hard Brett Favre made Darrell Bevell's job.
All right, if I have to give you the choice between these two quarterbacks, which one you taking? Russell Wilson or all Russell Wilson, everything, the kid from Richmond, Virginia.
Small town kid.
Mm-hmm. Or Matthew Stafford, which one you taking?
Oh, I'm taking Wilson. I am absolutely taking Wilson. And like I say, I feel better about Stafford than I used to, but no. I'm a Russell Wilson believer.
All right, earlier we discussed Paul George's return to Indianapolis and getting booed by the Pacer fans. So the Knicks and the Thunder, Carmelo Anthony returns to MSG on Saturday. So our Twitter poll today on the ESPN radio account was, when Carmelo Anthony returns to MSG on Saturday, Knicks fans should, and the options were boo him or cheer him. And 64% of those who voted said that the Knicks fans should cheer Carmelo Anthony.
Really?
Yeah, 64% say cheer, 36% said boo. And I would hope that the organization would do some sort of video presentation as well and have highlights of that lone playoff win that the Knicks got, series win that the Knicks had under the Carmelo tenure.
Hey, also, don't forget, man, they ought to put a picture of his birth certificate up on the Jumbotron that, he's quote-unquote from New York.
Hometown kid, right?
Hometown kid. Small town, Brooklyn, New York.
All right, I wanted to ask you, but we meant to get into this earlier, though. You were in Bristol yesterday, right?
I was.
So how'd it go?
It was cold. That's how it went. It was cold. We had a big old meeting. I will tell you this. This is why Shannon wanted to do this. He wanted to try to kind of call me out for this, but whatever. So we had the big meeting, and they were running buses from one part of ESPN to the other part of ESPN for this meeting. So I had been in line with the homie Dominique Foxworth, the homie Joel Anderson, Clinton Yates. I was hanging with them, and then I got kind of separated because everybody's there, so you wind up dapping people up. Like I saw the homie Steven Jackson, all that. Anyway, so I look up, man, that line, it's cold outside, that line long as hell, and I look at the back, and I see some people I don't want to get caught in an awkward conversation with. So I'm like, let me find Joel. So I start walking around the line. I see Pablo and Mina Kimes. I chucked them the deuce, and when I look up, I see Joel. Joel got a foot getting on the bus, and I start going fast. I'm like, hey, yo, Joel! And then I get there fast, and I put my hand on his shoulder, and I'm like, okay, cool, let's just act like we talking. And then I just walked up on that bus. And then what was funny, Shannon, I wound up getting on the bus, and who's next to me when I sit down? Darren Ravel. And so I have the seat next to Darren Ravel, and I look, and he got on a jacket that's the same jacket as the jacket I got on. I looked at him, and I was like, damn, now I got to go and take this jacket back to the store.
But you cut the line, though.
Oh, yeah, I skipped the line. Had to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this every weekday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Shannon, Ryan, Nuno, thanks so much. Jalen Jacoby coming up next.
Thanks for listening to The Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.